Let's go.
It's time for the Lady Charmaine's Gospel Minute, keeping you up to date on all your favorite celebrities in the gospel music industry. From tour dates, CD releases, and all your favorite gospel television shows. It's not Hollywood gossip. It's the Gospel Minute with Lady Charmaine.
Well, my guest high-energy comedy performances are the reason why he is a veteran in the game. He is one of the busiest brothers in the business. He currently serves as the co-host on BET's The Monique Show, where he provides laughs alongside comedian Monique 5 nights a week. And now you can check him out on the big screen. You can check out Tyler Perry's Madea's Big Happy Family. Help me welcome to the show none other than the man on the street, Mr. Funny Man, comedian, Mr. Rodney Perry.
What's up, lady?
How you doing? And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I know you have a choice over who you talk to, and I appreciate you taking some time to talk to little old me.
Oh, isn't that precious? Now, you know, Rodney, you and I, we actually have a lot in common. When I was reading your bio, I mean, you lived in Monroe, Louisiana. I attended Grambling State and did my shopping in Monroe, Louisiana. And then
at the Conland Mall.
And I was at the Dillard's. There you go. And then, of course, when they opened up the Red Lobster, we had the skating rink down there. So, and
wow.
Yeah, and then you moved to the Bay Area.
It sounds like you're a little younger than me, though. I think I'm older.
Well, how old are you, Rodney?
I'm the class of '88.
Rodney, you're only a year older than me. I'm the class of '89.
Okay, you know, I know you said the Red Lobster. I'm like, that goes, you was a little bit younger. I knew it was not too much. But,
oh, yeah, one, yeah. Okay, 1 year. Just one. Just one.
1 year, oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah, but you went to Graham. Yeah, then we moved out to the Bay Area. You know, I was in the Navy then.
Would you move? You moved to Alameda because I'm from the Bay Area. So I was reading your bio. I said, okay. And then also, too, you had a blog talk radio show. So did I. But
I did.
Yeah, and so I'm following your footsteps. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm on a pretty good track right about now. Maybe BET might have a show for a sister too. You never know. But I just want
you never know.
But yeah, so Rodney, I wanted to know: did you always want to become a comedian? Was this a dream of yours?
Absolutely. I had a teacher at second grade that would let me do comedy at the end of the day if I would shut up throughout the course of the day.
Really?
So, yeah, comedy has always been kind of a part of me. Like, my mom was very instrumental, and she didn't even know it, but she used to have, like, all these parties. You know, when I was growing up, they would have parties, and, you know, back in the day, a party was like grown folks sitting around having drinks and listening to Richard Pryor records. Well, my bedroom was right off the living room, so I used to lay on the floor and listen to these records and giggle up under the crack of the door. You know, when they would have company.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know about that. They don't know about the Ruth Browns. They don't know about the Red Fox albums, you know, back in the day. And it's funny that you mentioned that because that's what I actually grew up on myself. Now, when did you actually realize that you were funny? I mean, did you always know you were funny, or was there one moment in time in your life that you say, you know what, I'm pretty funny? Did you always know it?
I kind of knew I was funny, but I didn't know it as a profession until later on. Like, I tell you what, like, Richard Pryor is my comedic reference, but it wasn't until I saw Eddie Murphy on TV that I was like, that's what I want to do. And when I saw Eddie Murphy, that's when I was like, that's it. That's it. And, you know, but I still would really grow to find my real funny till later on.
Okay. Now, I know you paid your dues on the comedy circuit, you know, in so many different ways. Was it difficult for you as a husband and a father of 6 to really wait on that big break?
Well, you know, I never wait on nothing. You know, I just was working, you know. I mean, I made the decision in 1998 to get out the Navy and to pursue my comedy career. And so it took me probably maybe 2 years after that to really go full steam. So I've been a professional working comic since maybe 1999, 2000. So, you know, for everybody that feels like an overnight success, they're probably 10 to 15 years in the game.
And so how long have you been in the game?
I was doing comedy in like 91. Like, but, you know, I kind of missed the first Wave of Death Jam because I was a Rudy Poo back then, and then I missed the early Comic View because I just wasn't ready yet, and so I got on TV for the first time in '98 when I moved to LA, and just kept grinding and working and making relationships. I mean, I've worked with all of the best comedians. I opened for George Lopez. I opened for Sid the Entertainer. I opened for Steve Harvey. And, of course, I've opened and worked with Monique.
Now, when you say your first big break, what was the first television show you did? What was that big break?
That was BET's Comic View. And I'll give you a quick story on that. I did Comic View in 1998, my first time on TV, and I was so happy. And this particular season, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a season of Comic View when they would play like crickets over your set as if you wasn't doing well. And they did that to me that season. And I was like, and then, you told people you're going to be on TV and then that's it. And so I had my cousins clowning me and, people that I told I'm about to do this full time. They was like, you sure?
Wow, that's motive though. When you hear crickets and that's your first time. Now, were you discouraged? What was it that kept you going? Because some people could have said, man, this is not for me. What was it that kept you going?
I think it was my wife, man. It was a young lady named Kathy Westfield, and Kathy got the crickets too that year. And Kathy came to me. She said, "Rodney, we suing BET. You in or not?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." And me and my wife talked about it. She was like, "You ain't suing them people." She's like, my wife is the realest person in the world. My wife was like, "Look, you never know if you might want to work for them later or work with them later. Don't do that." And so I didn't do it. Long story short, I ended up working for BET, years later, and, of course the show got better. And, I had, that was my first of like 8 performances. And, you just become a better comic and a better human being.
That is so good. That right there is a great point because I had a situation just like that had happened to me. And, I could have sued if I wanted to. And I had grounds to sue because it was prejudice and racism. And it was in an email. So it was point blank. I would have won that hands down. But it's funny you said that because I never forget. I told my husband, I'm looking at the bigger picture. I said, because that same company also owns BET, so I could have done that, but I'm so glad I didn't because what God began to do in my career, that would not have helped me at all if I would have did that. So I'm so glad you said that. Now you ended up being the man on the street on Bill Bellamy's Who's Got Jokes. How did you land that job?
Okay, great story. Nobody ever asked me about Who's Got Jokes, and I'm glad you asked me. And you're probably one of a handful of people that even know this story. They actually offered me the job as the host. Okay, and I'll give you the quick backstory. They went to Bill Bellamy. Bill turned the job down. And I had done a DVD series called The Big Black Comedy Show, which is actually the very first time I ever worked with Monique. Monique hosted. I was the behind-the-scenes guy, did all the interviews of the comics and stuff before they walked on stage. So the producers of that show, Big Black Comedy Show, did Who's Got Jokes. A guy by the name of Ralph Farquhar, who produced. He was like a writer on Happy Days. He produced a lot of shows in the 90s. So Ralph Farquhar and a guy by the name of Dwayne Corbett, they came to me and offered me the job as the host. Well, before I could say yes, the following day I said, "Let me sleep on it. I'll give you an answer tomorrow." Before I could say, I get a call that said Bill Bellamy. They came to me and said, "Rod, man, Bill came back and said he would take the job." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh man, this is so." They said, "But we still want you. We want you to do something, and we work this thing out. If you're okay with it, you can be our man on the street." And that's kind of how that job came to be. And I became the man on the street. And really, they didn't really know what I would do. I mean, they knew I would do interviews and associate with, but they didn't know what my character was. So what I learned from that show is kind of how to produce myself and how to become my own. How to find my way on my own. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good good moment in my career, you know, because I got the chance to learn in front of the character how to produce in front of the camera how to produce myself.
And that's good. And then you kind of made yourself a brand, so everybody knew who Rodney Perry was. So that was good. Now, Rodney, many people don't know that you had a Blog Talk radio show. You even had Chucky Booker on your show, Monique on your show. Now, what made you want to host a Blog Talk radio show? Was it just because you wanted your own show, try to get your feet wet doing something else in radio?
Well, I did radio with Monique for like 5 months.
Really?
So I was on the radio with Monique, and when that show went away, I just found that I just liked that medium, and I was doing interviews with people on Blog Talk, and one guy in particular, he's got a show called Peasy's Place, and I met Peasy after doing a show in Columbus, Ohio, and he had me on his show. He interviewed me, and he's like, Rodney, he's like, man, you should have a Blog Talk show. He's like, man, you know people. When I did his show, the phone lines blew up. So he was like, man, you really should consider doing your own show. So I looked into it. It was free, and it was a great platform. I thought it was a really dope platform. I thought, you know, like, this is the deal, and I'm sure you'll agree. Nowadays, you don't have to wait for opportunity. You can just start your own.
Yes.
If you want a TV show, go on YouTube. If you want a radio show, go on Blog Talk.
Yes.
You know, and just start doing it today. I mean, anybody listen to this show, don't wait for people to give you. My son right now wants to be a rapper. And every time he like, Daddy, don't you know Bow Wow? Man, hook me up with Bow. I'm like, you got to create your own hype and create some value to yourself. And that's what I did. You know, that's why I did that show. The only reason I didn't keep doing my Blog Talk show is that I just got too busy and I couldn't give it the attention that it deserved.
Right, because I know your mom even hosted for you one time.
I know, yeah, my mom.
She was hosting for you too. But you know, I did a show on that, and I actually talked about that on YouTube. You know, when people, what do you have in your hand? So many people are waiting for that big break, you know, to go on television. You have YouTube, and YouTube, people get 3 million hits. You know, on YouTube, you have Blog Talk. I mean, on Blog Talk, I have thousands of listeners, and I thank God for that. And then I ended up launching my own station, but people don't even realize, and it's free, and it's the best thing out there. If this is something that you say you want to go into, I recommend it to anybody. Okay, now I got to find out this story from you, Mr. Rodney. For those who are just tuning in, we're talking to Mr. Rodney Perry. You know him as the co-host on the Monique Show. He's also in the new movie, Madea's Big Happy Family. But right now, how did you and Monique actually hooked up? You said you had a radio show together. Give us a little background on your relationship with Monique.
Okay, like I briefly touched on, we did the Big Black Comedy Show together, but you can work with somebody and never work with them. So I was doing one aspect of the show, she was doing another, and we really didn't cross paths a whole lot, except there's an interview. If you ever look at the DVD of the Big Black Comedy Show, there's an interview where I interviewed Monique backstage. It's a really good interview. But anyway, so fast forward, Monique has an assistant that's a fan of Rodney Perry. And she was like, you know, Mo, you got to see this dude. This dude is funny. And she was like, okay. And they came out to the Comedy Store and saw me. I did a random call out of the blue maybe 3 days later. And it's Monique. And she's like, what's up? I was like, what's up, Mo? I mean, I said, what's up? I didn't know it was her. I said, who is this? She said, Monique. I'm like, Monique who? She's like, Monique. And I'm like, wow, what's up? You know, how you doing? She's like, we've been laughing at you for the last 3 days. You are hilarious. She's like, man, I really enjoy your comedy. You talked about your family. You talked about your kids. She's like, you know, don't take this the wrong way, but can I take your wife on a shopping spree?
Okay.
And I was like, yeah. So he took my wife on the shopping spree. About 2 days later, spent upwards of $2,500 in our home.
Wait, Rodney. I mean, did your wife look like she needed to go on a shopping spree? I mean, you don't find too many women or comedians that I want to take your wife. I mean, how was she looking?
Well, this is the deal. This what happened was Monique would do stuff like that all the time.
Okay.
And like that was her way of giving back.
Okay.
And so, but she had never done it a one-on-one. She would get like groups of women that maybe been a shelter or groups of people that, you know, and she didn't buy like she didn't buy. She bought like necessities, like like she bought like $500 worth of food. She filled up our freezer. You know what I'm saying? We our couch, it had a little something. She bought a couch that day. It was like that. It was that much stuff, like that type of stuff. It was like crazy. Wow. And so but that was out of the kindness of her heart. I mean, she had never met my wife at this juncture. She didn't have no reference point that this lady needed to go to Lane Bryant to get some clothes. No, it was just out of the kindness of her heart. So the long and the short, my wife got back to the house and we talked about it, and so I asked her assistant, could I talk to her again? I talked to her, and I'm like, how do I pay you back? And she was like, you don't. She's like, someday you'll be able to take some young comic and do the same thing for them.
Wow.
So that's the route. That's the beautiful person that I got introduced to. So fast forward, we start doing like spot dates here and there. She would call me every once in a while, Rodney, can you do this date? Oh, no, you can't do this. Okay, maybe next time we can do this. And so we start doing shows here and there. And she got this radio show. Well, Monique is the most loyal human being on the planet. So when she was like a low end on the totem pole comic, she did radio in Washington, D.C., WHUR. So she did radio, and she told that guy that was the host of that show, she said, if I ever get a show, you'll be my co-host. Well, lo and behold, she got a show, and she made him her co-host. But, if you know anything about radio, radio kind of works with the straight man at the lead and then the comic, injecting.
Right.
But I think it was harder when Monique was at the lead and he was the straight man coming in. And so she had to carry like the whole 4 hours of entertainment. And so with that, I think they began to kind of look for somebody else. Unbeknownst to me, I went out to a remote, and I remember it vividly because it was a voting drive, and we were leading up to the election of Barack Obama. And so it was a voting drive. It was getting people to register to vote. And I got on the air with Monique, and we had an immediate chemistry. Just like, bam, bam, it was funny. We were feeding off each other. It was crazy. Not more than 5 minutes, right? I get off the air, and the producer put me to the side. He's like, yo, Rod, you should come in next week. And the next week was the Wednesday after the election. So I went in the Wednesday after the election. Now, let me give you a glimpse into my backstory. I did radio in L.A. for 3 years for free.
Okay.
Because I was doing a comedy show at a comedy club called the Comedy Union, and I started going into the radio station to promote my show. So I would go in there once a week and tell them about what we were doing that Friday night. Once a week became twice a week became 3 days a week. Before I know it, it's 3 years later.
Wow.
And I with no money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go in for the first day, and I'm worried that this is the first day of 3 years without no money again.
Okay, a flashback.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm tripping. And I don't know if you ever tripped off this, but every bad relationship you ever been in start with hello. You know what I mean? Like,
our lives are so, Rodney, our lives are so parallel. You have no idea, but go ahead.
So I did that 3 years for free. I walk into the studio the first time, Monique, and it's beautiful. I mean, the studio is off the chain. She got her own studio in the Valley in L.A. We hitting it. The show was incredible. At the end of the first day, they looked at me and said, Rodney, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, okay. But I'm tripping because I got my baggage. I got my baggage from the other radio station.
Right.
So me and my wife, we talk when I get home that night. I'm like, babe, man, I don't know, man. Ain't nobody talking about no money. They told me you got to see me tomorrow. What I'm going to do? And she was like, let me ask you something. This is, again, why I say my wife's the most gangster person in the world. She was like, do you think the same woman that took me out on that shopping spree will have you working for free for 10 days, let alone 3 years? I was like, you know what? You're right. So I go into the studio the next day. The next day, come and go, great day on the radio. At the end of the day, they say, all right, Rodney, tomorrow, man. Make sure you're on time. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. The next day, Friday, come and go. Man, the end of the day, nobody said I'll see you tomorrow.
Wow.
Monique's husband come pull me to the side. Now, I don't know if you've ever been pulled to the side, but now I'm not worried about getting a job. I'm worried about getting fired.
From a job you're not even getting paid for.
I'm like, wait a minute, how you gonna get fired and you ain't even got the job yet, Craig?
Oh, that's
so
good.
I'm like, okay. So Sidney Hicks pulled me to the side, Monique's husband. He's like, Rob, man, I got to tell you, we love your chemistry with Monique, man. This week has been incredible. Mo loves you. I love you. The whole team wants you to be on board. Would you like to join our team? I'm like, yeah. And before I could get yes out, he said, hold on, man. I got to tell you, we can only pay you like a six-figure salary.
Only?
Whoa. Well, hey, you know, I never tell this part of the story, but I cried like a baby in that studio right then on the spot.
Oh, my gosh.
And, you know, I cried like a baby in the studio. Monique looked at me. She said, "Is he crying?" And she started crying. And we sat there and we cried together. And it was a trip, right? So we started doing radio. And that was November, December, January, February, March, 5 months of radio. The show get canceled. Okay? The show get canceled. Monique looked at us. You know, she's like, you know, bigger and better things are coming. Right? So in that interim is when I did my blog talk show. That's when I did Rodney Perry show. If you look on YouTube, you'll see that as well. And I was just keeping myself busy. I was going out, I was performing, I was doing comedy. And my wife and I started looking for houses in L.A. And we were kind of house hunting a little bit, and we was quickly finding out there was really nothing we could afford. I mean, if you know Los Angeles real estate, you know, 45 square feet, you know, is, you know, nothing. Right. So, hold on a second. 45 square feet is nothing. So we quickly figured out we couldn't really afford nothing. That's when I get a random call from Monique. Hey, what you doing? You know, me and Angie are looking for a house. She's like, She said, why don't you hold off on that? I told my wife, I said, Monique said we should hold off. My wife like, well, you need to tell Monique that we are already holding off because we can't afford nothing. Right? So we get off that call. I get a call maybe about 4 weeks later. Monique, Frankie, I just made the biggest deal in BET history. I want you to roll with me. I got to go. Click. She hang up.
How do you like, what?
A week later, I get another call. Monique's husband, City. Yo, Rod, the BET people going to be calling you. They call you yet? They ain't call you that? All right, they're going to be calling you real soon. Get ready, man. It's going to be fun, man. Get ready, dog. Get ready. Click. They hang up on me. Now, I'm like, okay, y'all going to stop hanging up on me. Next call I get from BET. Rodney Perry, are you willing to relocate to Atlanta? I'm like, hell yeah. And I packed up my family and we moved to Atlanta. We've been here ever since. And we just as of today, as of last Thursday, we just completed our 300th episode.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
that deserves an applause.
That's how I got the job.
Well, look, and so it's been 300 episodes, and you guys are still going, and the show is very successful. And then you moved on to, while you're still there, to even bigger things, Tyler Perry's new movie, Madea's Big Happy Family. And then you were in there with Loretta Devine. I love her. I love Loretta Devine and Tyler. So how was it?
Awesome.
Her personality, she was on the show last week. Oh, she's just like sugar. I love that lady. How did you all, how did you get together with Tyler Perry for this movie?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. My best friend, David Arnold, was a writer or is a writer on Meet the Browns. So I would hang out with the writing staff by default sometimes, just because they be with Dave. and Dave would call me. They do karaoke or something, and they're here in Atlanta, so I would go out and hang out with them. Long story short, one of the writers, he just liked my character, so he wrote a character for me. And I had to go in and audition for it, but they really had wrote this character with me in mind. So I played a character on Meet the Brown, and I played like one of Brown's cousins, a fast-talking cousin, whatever. And I did that. I had a good experience with that, and I got to kind of meet, the Tyler Perry family. Roger Bob, who was his right-hand man, Angie Bones, who is, if you look at the all the credits, she's worked on all his films. The people that work in TV shows work in movies. Mm-hmm. So I got indoctrinated to the Tyler Perry family that way. And then we kind of, on the Monique Show, we had challenged her to a kickball game, and so we had a lot of rhetoric going back and forth, anyway. So it was just a lot of good energy, good, clean fun. And so that kind of happened. I did that, and they were working on this movie. Well, unbeknownst to me, they had been trying to cast the role that I ended up playing, Harold, for months. And they really wasn't checking for me. They was cast out of L.A. And Roger Bob came down. I was playing a comedy club here in Atlanta. Everything that's ever happened to me came through comedy. I'm playing a comedy club in Atlanta, and Roger Bob came out to see me. And at the end of the show, he was like, Rod, man, first of all, you are hilarious. He's like, man, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow. And I thought he was going to give me a call and, give me some words of encouragement. I get a call at 11 a.m. from the casting people at Tyler Perry Studios. Rodney, can you come in at 12 o'clock and read for the role of Harold, Madea's Big Happy Family? I'm like, yeah. Now, I ain't even seen it yet. I ain't even looked at the paper yet. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to be in there in an hour. I go to my email, I print out the script for that day, I memorize it in like 20 minutes, I drive over there, and I go in, and I'm reading for the same lady that booked me on Meet the Browns, And the hardest part about audition is the unknown, But it was no unknown because I knew her. Her name is Alpha Tyler. She was an awesome lady. So I read for Alpha, killed that reading. Alpha took me in to Reuben Cannon, who was, Tyler Perry's left-hand man. Mm-hmm. Reuben Cannon, big-time casting director. Reuben Cannon is actually the same guy that cast me in Johnson Family Vacation 10 years ago.
Wow.
When I worked with Bow Wow for the first time when he was a little kid. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, as a matter of fact, it wasn't even 10 years, it might have been 6 or 7 years. But anyway, so I go in at Reuben Cannon, I read for him live, and I go home. I go in on a Thursday. Friday, I hear nothing. Now, by Saturday afternoon, I'm like, it's not going to happen because this role is shooting on Monday, right?
Wow.
Just as I told my boy that I said, man, this is not going to happen. I went in and read for this Tyler Perry thing, but it's not going to happen because this thing shoots on Monday. As soon as I said shoots on Monday, the phone rang. It's Tyler Perry Studios. Roger Bob, Tyler Perry's right-hand man, is on the phone. Rodney Perry, congratulations. You just got the role of Harold in Madea's Big Happy Family. Mm. And I was just floored, man. And I went to work on that Monday and worked for 4 or 5 weeks and wrapped that movie and went straight to work on Monique. Didn't even have time to think about it.
I'll say, now you're a really busy brother. Now you rolling with what they say, the big dogs. Now that is a great story of just how God is just elevating your life. And then you're going to be working on a new movie with Tony Rock called The Last Laugh. Tell us about that. That's coming out this summer?
It'll probably go the film festival route. It's a really dope movie though, man. I shot it actually while I was working on Monique on one of my weeks off. And it took us about 8 or 9 days to shoot my part. And it's a drama about comedy, and I think it's going to give people a great look at what urban comedy is and what we go through, all the trappings of success, and, the women, the drugs, the alcohol, how that can swallow you up. And it's a story of two friends, and Tony and I, we play these two friends that go in these ups and downs, with addiction and things of that nature, and we're both comedians as well. So it's a great story, man. I hope the world gets to see it. Tony Rock turned in incredible performances. I think my character, I did some really good stuff in this film as well. And I'm excited about it, man. That's my favorite film to date, to work on up to this point.
The Last Laugh. And now you're going to be hosting your own comedy special, Rodney Perry, all the way live. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, All the Way Live is two things. First of all, I do a show monthly here in Atlanta at a place called Mingle that I call Rodney Perry All the Way Live. And I created that show to prepare for my comedy special. Like, I've done, many DVD projects, but never a special for Showtime or HBO. Mm-hmm. So I'm gearing up to shoot this special for Showtime or HBO, and it's going to be Rodney Perry All the Way Live. It's going to be me uncut, unedited, and it's going to be, my stand-up comedy at its best, because a lot of people know me, but they don't know my comedy as well as they should. So I want to give them that.
Okay. And you talk about your children, and you have 6 children, right?
I have 6. My wife and I have 4 together. I have an older son and an older daughter.
Wow. So
my daughter, by the way, just graduated from LSU last weekend.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, man, look at God. You got an older daughter, you got 6 kids, and I'm sure you have a lot to add into your comedy, too. Especially talking about family. You've been married for a while, so you got some years in there as well. So I'm sure a lot of people be able to kind of identify with some of the things you probably put in on the stage. Now, Rodney, if somebody wanted to follow your career, how can they do that? Do you have a website, a Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, all those spaces?
I got all that. If you want to just everything, go to my website, RodneyPerry.com. It's got links to everything. If you want to go directly to my Twitter, I'm at Rodney Perry. If you want to go directly to my Facebook, it's Facebook.com/it's Rodney Perry, ITS Rodney Perry. And, I'm very big on my social network, and if you're talking to somebody on there, it's probably me.
That's good to know. We got the real Rodney Perry, not your cousin, not your assistant. We have you. Well, Rodney, I want to thank you so much. Go ahead. Rodney? Oh, I thought you were saying something.
No.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It was definitely a pleasure. I'm sure your story really encouraged somebody out there to just stick with it no matter what, because God has big things for you. So again, Rodney, thank you so much.